At Team Toyota, they've been selling and servicing new and used Toyotas in your community for over 50 years. And you can reserve your next new Toyota with them today. You'll get a realistic timeline, and even in this crazy market, they won't charge you over MSRP. Or don't wait at all. With over 75 certified Toyotas, including a bunch of RAV4 and Highlanders, you can drive one home today. And you can always trust them to maintain your current vehicle. Their service and collision centers are high-tech, comfortable, and will save you time and money. Team Toyota can help you go anywhere you want, but they'll always be your hometown team. Just visit teamtoyota.net and choose from 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton.
Hey folks, welcome to the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. Corey Simon and Jim Salisbury here with you as the Phils have a little 2-game winning streak here against the Colorado Rockies. Jim, we talked earlier in the week about the dire need already here in April to win a series after losing 4 in a row. The Phils had lost 9 of 12 entering, and here they are 2 nights into their series against the Rockies. They've outscored them 18-5, and probably what stuck out the most is that the Phillies have taken advantage of so many Colorado mistakes defensively.
No question. You have to do that in the major leagues. We've seen it done to the Phillies the last 2 years. They're a horrible defensive team, and cost them a lot of games because other teams took advantage of their miscues, errors and balls that were not ruled errors but should have been made, plays that should have been made. So, it's hard to outrun bad defense, and the Colorado Rockies have not been able to do that the last 2 nights in Philadelphia. And the Phillies have smartly taken advantage. I mean, last night there was a wild pitch and an error on the same play, and the Phillies scored 2 runs. I mean, that's really how you got to do it. They scored 2 runs on a wild pitch. They've scored, 7 unearned runs, 18 runs in 2 nights, 7 are unearned. They have 20 hits, 7 extra bases, so they've capitalized and they've played well. It doesn't matter how you get the win as long as you get it. If the other team's going to be sloppy, go to town on them, and that's what the Phillies have done. And like I said, enough teams have done that to the Phillies over the years. So everybody says the Phillies are a horrendous defensive team, but they found one that's more horrendous in the Rockies. So yeah, the Phillies have lost 4 straight series, so they need one of these next 2 to get a series win, a really important series win as they head to New York to face the red-hot, smoking-hot New York Mets. Phillies already trail them by 4.5 games, but it's still quite early. I'm looking forward to that series over the weekend in New York. I think the Phillies will see Scherzer maybe on Sunday night, and looks like the bats might be warming a little bit. There was kind of a really you can kind of feel the bats warming a little bit because no team in the National League has hit the ball harder than the Phillies. They have they lead the National League entering Tuesday night's game. They had led the National League in balls of 95 miles an hour off the bat, struck balls of 95 plus off the bat. So hitting to a little bad luck here, but definitely the bats the last 2 nights have been warm. We'll see where they can go on Wednesday night behind Ranger Suarez.
Jim, Tuesday night was one of the first times all season. It might have been the first time, I don't know off the top of my head, that you've seen an Alec Bohm third base, Didi Gregorius shortstop defensive alignment on the left side. For the most part, it's been like Bohm and Camargo, but Johan Camargo had a rare day off as Didi returned to the lineup on Tuesday. And something that really stuck out was the 8-9, the bottom of the lineup. Didi Gregorius, Odubel Herrera. They went a combined 4 for 7, drove in 4 runs, scored 5. Odubel had 2 big hits. And, as that game was playing out, I'm just thinking that this is what the Phillies lineup looks like when it's clicking 1 through 9. I mean, you see how dangerous it can be when the bottom of the order is getting on for the top. Obviously, they benefited from 2 shaky defensive innings by the Rockies, but it just seems like 1 through 9 collectively, the Phillies are in a better place than they were a week ago.
No question. I mean, your number 9 hitter last night drove in 3 runs with a very hard hit double to the gap and a very hard hit home run, 2-run homer. So that was Odubel Herrera. And Didi gets back in the lineup after a week, and they're shifting him early, and sort of a check swing infield hit into that shift, and it proves to be a real igniter in that early rally the Phillies had. So, hey, if those guys are going to hit, that's a nice bottom of the lineup. But in some nights you need the bottom of the lineup to carry you. That was sort of the thing everybody talked about in spring training, was the potential depth of this lineup, and I think we saw it on Tuesday night.
And it was a good one from Zach Eflin, who continued the theme of decent Phillies starting pitching. The second cycle through the rotation, things looked a little dicey. You had Zach Wheeler's velocity down. Aaron Nola hadn't really started to get going yet. Zach Eflin was coming off a loss. Ranger Suarez wasn't going too deep. But now here, 3 games in a row, the Phils have gotten a quality start out of their pitcher. And Eflin against the Rockies, I mean, that was some of the very best of Zach Eflin, only 2 hits across 6 innings.
Yeah. And really good infield defense behind the sinker baller. That's important. Alec Boehm had a terrific game at third base. His turnaround remains impressive and rather amazing. But last 3 games here for the Phillies, Nola, Gibson, Eflin, just 3 runs in 18 2/3. Good pitching will still stop good hitting. Everything in this game starts with good pitching, and the Phillies have gotten it the last 3 nights. They didn't score on Sunday night for Nola, but it's really a good sign that pitching has come around. And Zach Eflin had his best start. He was a little behind in spring training. Everybody's sort of getting to the point where, they've almost had a full spring training under their belt now, and I think we're seeing it. Eflin was really good, registered only 3 strikeouts, but only 1 walk, and that's kind of Zach Eflin. Great control, rely on your defense. Try to get some early contact. He did strike out his 500th career batter. That's certainly a nice feather in his cap. But also only 1 walk. So he's gone like 27 straight starts with 2 or fewer walks. That's very, very impressive. He's usually a guy who doesn't beat himself. And if you score him some runs, you have a really good chance. So we know how important starting pitching is. We know how thin the Phillies are. I mean, they go 5 deep. We all like their 5. But they don't really go 6, 7, 8 deep. So they really need good health from this 5-man unit, health and production. And Eflin is very, very important. It's a big year for him personally and team-wise. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the season, and he has a lot of reasons to want to pitch well. He always does. He's a proud guy, and he's overcome a lot of injuries with his knees over his career. And to me, he looks poised for a very sharp season. And last night he certainly was extremely sharp in helping the Phillies win that game.
And as you wrote at NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com, it was the 4th start he made in April, which was a month that we didn't know if Zach Eflin was even going to get on the mound based on the fact that he had the knee surgery in September of 2021. If there was some bad news for the Phillies on Tuesday night, I guess it was how Bryce Harper's throwing session went prior to the game. Harper's missed more than a week here as he deals with the right flexor strain, been limited to DH duty. He threw pregame Tuesday. Doesn't sound like it went so well, huh?
He wasn't pleased with it. He just played catch. I mean, it was like, me and you in the front yard or the backyard playing catch. He didn't air it out. It wasn't like an intense test, which I guess he didn't feel good, he said. So that's not a good sign that he's not even airing it out, and it didn't feel very good. So that's the downside, that it's not progressing as quickly as he would hope, preventing him from getting on the field defensively. The plus side is there's a DH, and he is tearing it up. I mean, thinking in the 9 games he's DH, I think he has like 4 doubles and 2 home runs. So he's hit the ball really well. It's not bothering him to swing. So it's good they can keep him in the lineup. But he did report some improvement, just not enough improvement where he can get on the field. I'll just remind you and everybody that it's not the Tommy John ligament. That's what they say, and that's what he says, and that's what the MRIs have revealed. It's a different area. It's in that flexor mass, which is a group of muscles and tendons, sort of like right where under the elbow, where the forearm meets the elbow, everything comes in right there. So he's got a little strain in there somewhere, and they think it'll go away. That's just not going away fast enough to get him on the field. But thank goodness they have his bat.
Yeah, and they have Nick Castellanos playing right field regularly. It's been a decent defensive series for Nick Castellanos against the Rockies. You're not really expecting plus defense. You just, you expect the big offense and put him out there and hope that he can catch the balls that are at him or slightly away from him. But Castellanos has looked pretty good this week at Citizens Bank Park in right field. The other big news earlier this week was that the Phillies optioned Bryce Stott to AAA on Monday. He hadn't played in a week. He had gone 0 for his last 18 with 7 strikeouts. There wasn't really a spot for him because of Alec Bohm at third base, because Didi Gregorius returned after missing 5 games with a hand injury. How quickly do you think we might see Bryson Stott again this season?
It all depends on need, I think, now at the big league level. If you lose an infielder, I would think he'd be the first guy to come because we know he can play 3 positions. But he needed to go out and get some reps. He was 0 for 18, hadn't played for a week. You can't have a 24-year-old guy with that type of future sitting around. He's got to be out there seeing pitches every day, staying sharp in the field. This is kind of just the latest example of that old adage: you don't make absolute judgments on players in spring training. You don't make absolute judgments on players in the month of September when you're kind of out of it because the intensity is so different. Alec Bohm did not look good in spring training. Bryson Stott looked great in spring training. Now Alec Bohm looks terrific, and he's re-seized the third base job that Stott won out of spring training, and Stott is in AAA because he had a rough go over it the first couple of weeks. So, it's baseball. So many players over the years, I've covered so many of them who get to the big leagues and have to go back to AAA. If you channel it the right way and make it a learning experience, you can really, really grow from it. I remember early in my career covering AAA baseball, Mo Vaughn had gone up to Boston, and, he came back down kind of with his tail between his legs. But improved on the areas he needed to improve, and eventually went out there and became a big thumper for Boston and won an MVP in '95. So, everything in this game is a learning experience. I think that 3-hour night that Alec Bohm had on April 11th was a learning experience and a growth experience. You learn a lot from the nights you stink. If you're a competitor and a smart guy and a mature guy and a good athlete and strong mentally, you can really improve from failure. And hats off to Alec Bohm for doing that. And hats off to Bobby Dickerson and the new old infield coach for really helping this guy. I think Bryson Stott, we'll see him again this year at some point. It's just you're gonna have to see him when there's playing time because he remains the shortstop of the future, an important guy. He's going to be a guy in your lineup that you're going to need, and he just needs some playing time. Didi Gregorius will be a free agent at the end of the season, so all signs point to Bryson Stott being at that position, shortstop, next season, if not sooner. But right now, this is the way I think they really have to go. Keep that guy fresh. I mean, somebody pops an oblique in batting practice at 5:00 on a Wednesday night, and he's taking BP in Allentown. He can still be in Philadelphia in the starting lineup that night. That's why and try to help them win a major league game. That's why you have to take your assignment to AAA the right way and stay ready to play and ready to perform, because you never know when you're going to get a text and say, get in the car and come down the Northeast Extension. You're batting 5th or 6th tonight,
Jim, we're not even through April yet, and it's already seeming like JT Realmuto is playing a little too much. He started 10 straight games behind the plate. He's caught 15 more innings than anyone in all of baseball. Joe Girardi finally got him out from behind the plate late in Tuesday's game. I think in the 7th inning, moved him from catcher to first base. At first, you're wondering, why not just take him out entirely? And then there's 2 plays late in that game, one against the railing in foul territory and one in a shallow outfield ground where Realmuto's kind of laying out for a ball, which is not what you want to see out of the catcher that you have so many hopes and dreams pinned to.
Yeah, well, I think he went to first base for the simple reason he's probably going to get a day off today. They wanted to get Hoskins off his feet a little bit. Yeah, it wasn't an ideal situation, but you can't forecast bloopers down the right field line, and you can't tell a player to only go half-ass. JT's a guy who plays all out all the time, so He'll get his rest. I mean, we're obsessed with this in Philadelphia, Joe's rest patterns. He either rests guys too much or he doesn't rest guys enough. They do have to be careful with the guy because he's on he's a big investment. He's a very important guy on the team, but they also need him to play to win games. So it's as Lenny Dykstra used to say, it's a two-edged sword. I don't know that there'll ever be a happy medium, but if they win and he produces, there will be. And Joe, as a former catcher, is going to be very cognizant of his rest. I just think a slow start. They needed his bat. They needed his bat some. And we're going to see him get a little bit of rest here. Maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday. Definitely one of these days. I would think maybe Wednesday with a day game on Thursday. But if he plays Wednesday, I think he'll get Thursday off. So you need him. You need him, and you need to make sure he stays fresh. And that's why those guys get paid the big bucks. He'll get his rest. I just think a slow start. They backed off on an off day in Colorado because they needed him, and it'll work out.
Yeah, it's a little easier to sit him when you're coming off of 2 straight wins and 18 runs in 2 games than it is when you badly need to get your series off on the right foot. So the next 11 games for the Phillies here, looking at the next several series, they have 2 more with the Rockies. Then they have those 3 at the Mets, big series at Citi Field. Then the Phillies host the Rangers for 2 games, and then have 4 more against those same Mets. So a lot of big head-to-head matchups here between the Phillies and Mets over the next 2 weeks. Keep in mind they've already seen each other as well, so they're going to have more than half of the season series finished by, I guess, the first week of May. It is Rangers Suarez going for the Phillies tonight. These final 2 games of the Rockies series, Jim, they're pretty big to keep the momentum going heading into that NL East showdown.
No question. Good teams win series. I mean, that's why the Mets have been so good. And the Mets have had you can only play that team that's on the schedule that night. So if it's a good team or a bad team, you gotta strap it on and go play it. But they've taken it to Arizona, which is a weak team, and they've taken it to Washington, which is a weak team, and that's what you need to do. If a weak team appears on your schedule that night, you need to take care of business. They've also beaten good teams, so they are smoking hot. I think they won again on Tuesday night. They don't have DeGrom, but their starting pitching is still like the second best in the National League behind the Dodgers. Miguel has pitched very well. Carrasco's pitched well. Scherzer's pitched well. Bassett's pitched well. They got a nice, really good rotation, and even without DeGrom, they've hit. The bullpen has been good. I think Buck Showalter's brought a lot of, accountability and attention to detail to that clubhouse, and is going to be it already has been a big difference maker for that team. So I think it's going to be a really fun series. I like it. I always like it when the Mets and Phillies are good at the same time because it's obviously the only 2 hours apart. I like when the Mets fans come down here. I like when the Phillies fans go up there. It's always better when the Mets and Phillies are good, and that rivalry is kind of pulsating a little bit. So it would be nice if the Phillies can, win this series and go to New York and make a good showing and have some entertaining, fun ball games to watch up there.
The Mets have the best record in baseball currently at 14-5. They are 5.5 games ahead of both the Phillies and Braves. But I'll point out that last year at the end of April, 4 of the 6 teams that were leading their divisions did not win their divisions, and 3 of those teams missed the playoffs entirely. So while there's, it seems like the sample size is growing, it's still just so early. It
is. It's so early. And, the Mets, they led the division for 114 days last year and didn't get to the postseason. So it's crazy early. This game is still about the long haul, but the first steps of the journey matter. They matter a lot, and it's a good thing the Phillies have. They look like they're kind of right in the ship here, and think series wins. So they need to think of this now as a 2-game series and go out and take one of these next 2. And if you can take 2, that'll be a really good thing. Zach Wheeler is going to Suarez on Wednesday night, Wheeler on Thursday. Those are 2 pretty good guys to send to the mound. I mean, if the Phillies had gotten in the postseason last year, you would have been looking at Wheeler Suarez as your top 2. So they need to take care of business these next two nights against the Colorado Rockies behind Ranger Suarez, Zach Wheeler, and what looks to be a warming offense.
Yeah, Suarez and Wheeler also both seem to be trending in the right direction. Suarez, the command is getting there. Wheeler, we're seeing the velocity definitely tick up as well. Well, thanks a lot for listening to today's Phillies Talk podcast. He's Jim Salisbury. I'm Corey Seidman. Two more here with the Phils and Rockies before that big Phillies-Mets series this weekend. So we'll catch you a little bit later in the week. Thanks for checking us out.